Hello. Today is November 16th, 2022. I'm meeting today with Miss Rustie Ritchie at her home in Loveland, Colorado. My name is Brad Hoops. I'm the interviewer for the Northern Colorado Veterans History Project. Thank you, Rustie, for sitting down today to tell your story. Let's start out, if we could. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your date of birth, where you're born, a little bit about your family.
All right. I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. And I'm already forgetting what else you said.
What's your date of birth?
8/15/23. I'm very old. I'm 99.
Oh, so
Never thought I'd be that old. Never thought about
Did you ever think you'd live that long?
I never thought about old age.
Yeah.
Old age is tricky. You find out what things you can let go.
Yeah.
You learn how to let go. Like, let go of smooth skin. You get 100 million wrinkles. That's what you get. And you can't walk on different things,
Yeah.
But you gotta say, well, not too often because people get tired of hearing it. But you gotta say, yeah, that's what old age is.
Yeah.
100 million wrinkles and not walking like you used to, and so on.
So next summer you'll turn 100 years old.
Yes. Who believes that?
Yeah.
And people are nice and they say, well, you don't look 99. I don't feel I'm very lucky. I don't have a lot of aches or pains. So that's it.
Good. Well, talk a little bit about your family. Any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had one sister who died last year. She lived to be 94, and my mother lived to be 94. But my dad died very young. He died in Hartford at the age of 39.
Oh, boy.
When I was 16, and it was a trauma. But my mother took over, and he owned his own roofing business. He was the contractor for people. My mother was his secretary in the home, So when I got to be 18, it was 41, when the Japanese bombed. I went right down because all the boys who were in my I graduated from high school in 1941.
Oh, wow.
So the boys were being taken, drafted, and I thought, well, and then I heard about the WAVES, WAVES. Eleanor Roosevelt had formed that for women who wanted to be in the Navy. So I went down to the recruiting station and I said, here I am, I'd like to join the WAVES. I didn't say I just want to join the service, but I wound up at the Naval Recruiting Office.
Well, you must have been a trailblazer. There wasn't very many women.
Oh, no, they were it was the first time, just beginning. And he said, how old are you? And I said, 18, probably.
But didn't women at that time have to be 21 to join?
They had to be 20.
20, yeah.
He said, you can't join at 18. I said, why not? He said, because you can't. You come back when you're 20. And very disappointedly, I went home, and Hartford, Connecticut is the insurance city. And so when you get out of high school, if you're not going to go to college, and my dad was gone, and he would have sent me, So I got a job at the insurance company as a license clerk. The men, always men, there was a glass ceiling.
Yeah, sure.
Who were going to sell insurance had to get a license to do so in various states. So I had to find out what the requirements were in those states and do all the paperwork. I could take shorthand.
And that's before computers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could take shorthand, and I typed pretty fast. So what we used to call secretaries became, what is it they call them? The euphemism for secretary. That is administrative assistant.
Oh, right, yes.
So that's what I did, and the day I was 20, I went back down to the office and said, now I'm 20 and I want to join the service. And he said, how about the Navy? Fine. I said, as long as I could be stationed somewhere near the water. I grew up near the ocean, just 40 miles, and I love the wonderful thing. I know the mountains are good and everybody loves them, but they just stand there rigidly. The ocean, you can smell it, you can hear it, you can see it move. It moves for you. And I loved it. He said, well, we can get you near the ocean. They wanted women coming in. So he said, you can choose among these stations: San Diego, California, Michigan, Lake Michigan,
Florida maybe?
And Maryland, somewhere over the East Coast. He gave me the East Coast, the Great Lakes, and the Lakes, and the West Coast. So I said, I will take San Diego. Of course I would.
Yeah. Well, now, before that, had you traveled much growing up?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you'd never been probably too far from home?
Day trips.
Yeah, but not too far from home.
Oh, no.
Now you're going clear across the country.
It took us 3 days. You're sitting up in the train across the whole country. We got on, we had our boot camp at Hunter College in New York. It was 16 weeks. It was a long time. So we went there first. And then they put us on the train in New York. We went all the way slowly, now as I think about it, to the West Coast.
What an adventure.
Oh, it was. And the women, of course, were in their own car.
Yeah.
The men recruits were at both ends. We had just one car. And we set up. And they brought us some lunch. We didn't all go to the dining car. They brought us not very good food, but that was the beginning of not very good food, but
yeah.
What can they do with that many people? So,
well, if you don't mind, I'd like to back up real quick. I hate to interrupt your story to your youth. I always like to ask people your age about the Great Depression, and on top of that fact that you lost your father, how was it? Was that rough for you?
What I did one time, and I don't know how old I was, but old enough to ask the question. Yeah. What difference? Because now I just had my mother, and I was 16. So I said, Mother, what? How about the Depression? She said, that was the year you couldn't go to summer camp. I always went to I was Girl Scout happy, and a patrol leader, and so she said, we couldn't send you. That was the couple of years in there, and that's how it affected me. Okay. And also that, there wasn't, everybody didn't think they could go to college. There weren't so many, what do you call them when they give you the money?
Scholarships, yeah.
There weren't loans, and so I just settled the fact that I guess I couldn't go.
Yeah.
Until I went down there and saw the way. So that's how I happened to go. I spent all my youth in Connecticut.
Wow.
With day trips to the ocean.
Wow. And now you're going across the country. That's amazing.
Yeah.
How was that transition for you, going from civilian life into military life with boot camp and such? Was that?
Well, we could never wear anything but the uniform. Always, and girls like to dress up, and after a while I got tiresome, and I thought the hat wasn't very flattering, but the uniforms were fine, but we didn't think so. We got a locker, a foot locker like the men got to, you kept your things in, and a narrow locker that you hung your winter or summer uniforms. And that was the biggest thing at first. And I could never have had hair this long. It had to be short.
Wow.
So it was a shock.
Yeah, I'll bet, yeah.
But I felt proud. I really did.
Wow.
And we would have to get out on where the track was, and the boys ran track. And there are no boys at Hunter. I think that was all girls. But anyway, we'd have to go out there and march. And we'd have everyday drills out there. And it was really military. They made us go through whatever they thought 16 weeks.
Was it physically hard for you at all, or
No,
Okay.
I was skinny, but I was strong.
Yeah.
Physically and pretty strong. My mother was a good mother, but my sister was easier to get along with, and I always felt different. So I asked my mother, I said, Mother, why do we have trouble getting along? She said, Gladys, she called me Gladys, that's my given name. Gladys, you were such a strong-willed child. And I accepted that. And it must have been kind of, because my sister did everything, whereas I wouldn't eat my carrots, little example. She'd dutifully eat all her vegetables, and she looked like my mother. She had big brown eyes and black hair cut like little Chinese girls. And of course, if you have curly hair, you want straight.
Yeah.
If you have straight hair, you want curly. That's how girls are. My mother used to, Shirley Temple, you don't have any idea. Hours we'd sit her doing my hair. But then, that was my youth.
Wow.
And I got to join all the clubs in high school, and quite often I'd be an officer because I liked to be in charge. That's what my youth was like.
Wonderful. Well, sorry to interrupt your story there. Let's
It's
continue
all right.
on. So you're on the train heading west to San Diego. Take it from there.
And we get there and they put us in the San Diego Naval Hospital. And the purpose for the waves was to release the nurses so they could go on the hospital ships and give us the nurse duties. The only thing, we gave shots, but we couldn't draw blood. They wouldn't let us do that. So we did nurses' duty on the wards when we first went out there.
So did you get that it sounds like basic medical training. Did
But
you get that
that's-
at boot camp, or did you learn that out in San Diego?
San Diego.
Oh, okay.
They sent us after boot camp at Hunter. I don't remember how long boot camp was. But anyway, not very long, but it was 16 weeks training at the hospital before they let us on the floor. And so that's what I did first. But San Diego's so beautiful. Then the traffic wasn't so crazy as it is now.
And complete opposite of what
Oh,
you're growing up in the Northeast and the cold and the
Cold.
gloominess. Now you got the sunny and palm trees and
The plants that we used to try to grow in pots, they had on bushes and shrubs around. Oh, it's beautiful. And I love San Diego, and I had a wonderful time in retrospect.
Yeah.
At the time, we bitched and complained about food and work because I couldn't be an officer without a college education.
oh boy.
And I said to myself, that's not right. I can do what those officers are doing, but it was the way it was, and that didn't change. So we cleaned the washroom, and we did the duties, like the Navy, what do you call the young Navy recruits? But
okay.
that's what we were.
Yeah, right?
And then after I had done the war duty, or while I was doing the war duty, I wanted to specialize. And my specialty became occupational therapy.
Oh, wow.
So that's what they sent me to school for from boot camp, from San Diego Hospital. They sent me to the next town up. I forget now which one that was. But anyway, to train me. And occupational therapy then was, the war was over, it was 1943, I believe. No, it wasn't over. Of course it wasn't over. But occupational then was occupy the minds of the guys coming back. They were coming into our hospital from the islands, from Tarawa, and those awful experiences. And some of them couldn't take that very well. And they would come to occupational therapy, where we would furnish a big loom, and they would learn how to make rugs and mats. And we taught them how to do that. and we taught them how to paint. If they liked already to paint oils or water, we did that. And we did leather stamping of wallets and things.
Okay.
And that's how we occupied them. I don't remember, but they were all that kind of thing to keep their minds, because they'd had terrible experiences on the islands. Not everybody could take that as well as everybody else. And they had to handle it, and we helped them handle it. You know what it is today? It's hands.
Oh.
It's all about hands. I don't really know, except it's not that anymore that we occupied them with. It's surgery and work on hands. But that was exciting.
Now, did you have a choice when you wanted to specialize? Did they let you choose, or did they say?
There was only one way then. That was only the looms and things.
No, as far as when you went from the ward and
yes.
wanted to specialize, did you have a choice of what you could get into, or did they tell you?
Well, they told me first of all, well, you'll make a wonderful, whatever the Navy name is for a secretary. Now I said, sir, I don't want to do that. I did that, and that's not what I want. So that's when they put me into occupational therapy.
Okay.
Because I had on my papers that I had a little art school. I could draw, but I'm no artist anyway. So I wound up in, and they said, well, I said, I want something different. And he said, well, how about we train you in occupational therapy? And that's how I got into that.
Gotcha, yeah.
But the Navy changed my whole life.
Wow.
Had it not been for the Navy, I wouldn't have gotten the GI Bill of Rights.
Yeah, right.
And we all wanted to get out because we were young and we wanted to start our lives.
Sure.
So when I got out, I went on the GI Bill of Rights.
Well, let me, once again, I'm going to interrupt you and back up a little bit, talk about your experiences in San Diego. How was that personally for you, mentally, helping these guys out, these injured, and how did you manage to...
How did it affect me, you mean? Or how did
mentally, how did you... It had to be, I imagine it had to be hard on you to see some of these guys and what they were going through.
It's hard, but they didn't sit around like in an institution. These were guys that were walking and going on duty, or not duty, they were at the hospital for quite a while. Occupying themselves a space between war and civilian life. And they too would get the GI Bill. That was the most wonderful thing. They paid for everything, paid for my tuition, my books, my lodging. It was a gift. It really was wonderful. So I started going.
Well, now, did you spend your whole time in the Navy out in San Diego then? And,
yes.
And you were there when the war ended?
Yes.
Okay. Then how much longer after the war ended before you...
You know what? I don't remember that well. I only remember that I couldn't wait to get going, get out of the Navy, and get on with my life. And I thought I'd go back to Connecticut. Well, the best laid plans, you know. Fell in love and with a man who grew up in... I've had several husbands. You want that on? You may have to cut that.
Okay. No, you can tell it.
I had 3 husbands. The first one was, I don't remember him very well. It was brief.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was busy falling in love and getting married and having babies before I intended to. I mean, nowadays I hear how they can plan that. We couldn't plan that. So 9 months later, I had a baby. And then I had the second one on purpose to keep company. Never works out like that, you know. But they're always in the back seat fighting, or you know what parents are doing the whole time. Stop that! You know. Anyway, that's GI Bill was a blessing.
So, were you still in the Navy when you got married, or is this after you got out of the Navy?
That was after I got
Okay. So after you got out of the Navy then, you intended to come back to Connecticut, but you...
No, I intended to go to college then because I saw that the people with college educations, even if you were a woman with a glass ceiling,
Yeah.
you got opportunities. You've got to have an education or you're going to be a domestic of some sort.
Right.
So that's what I determined to do, to go to
I
school.
always, it seems like everyone in your generation, the females that I interviewed, they all said they had the choice of either you could be a secretary, a nurse, or a teacher. That
Absolutely.
and that was the glass ceiling, really. Or that's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
And the men would get the better jobs,
Yeah.
get better pay,
Yeah.
much better pay, and for the same work, and that bothered me and bothered all women, but it took a long time for that to change. Now I don't think we have so much of a glass ceiling, but it was there.
So after the Navy, then you went to college?
Yeah, so I said, now I'm going to go to college. On the when I heard about the GI Bill, because I didn't have any money, I wasn't a saver.
Yeah.
My sister saved her money. She was a good girl, but I spent home. And so I didn't have anything else, but I had the GI Bill, and it was wonderful. And I thought I was going to go to school in Maine. I had wanted, I don't know how I got the idea, but until I met my first husband, and that changed everything. And subsequent husbands did the same thing. The last husband was from New Orleans, and so I got married down in New Orleans at his mother's home in Houma, Louisiana, which is just outside New Orleans, and began another phase of my life, you see. So I love going to school. I did. And I did well.
So where did you end up going to school then?
Well, wherever was near.
Oh, okay.
And I wound up at Penn State, Temple University for graduate work. When I graduated from, I wish I made myself remember before you came. But there's now slight memory loss.
That's okay. At 99, you have that right.
I do, don't I? If I don't think about it, I do much better.
Yeah.
So, what was the question?
Where you'd gone to college. You said you did graduate work at Temple.
Yeah.
You couldn't remember your undergraduate.
Oh, I know. I went to a little college that my then husband was going to outside of Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, wow.
I went in Liberty, Missouri, to a place called William Jewell College, which was a Southern Baptist. Now, I grew up in the Episcopal Church. Probably, unless you were Catholic, you couldn't be farther from the Southern Baptist than I was. But that was what was there. And we got married on Friday, and we're going to start session on Monday.
Wow.
Just to go to school together, that was going to be so wonderful. But it never came to pass.
Now, did you go on to study occupational therapy, or did you something entirely different?
Just, my MA is in English.
Oh, okay.
I became an English teacher first, which is one of the three choices of what women could be: teach or nurse, or what was the third?
School teacher, secretary, or nurse. It seemed like for the three.
Yeah. So, anyway, I got into school, and then I wanted to teach English. So I went to graduate school at Temple, because that was in Philadelphia, and we were somehow second husband was there. So that's how I love Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a wonderful place. And so I moved to Philadelphia for my second marriage and got to the East Coast. And that's how I went to Temple, because I graduated from William Jewell and I wanted to go to graduate school. So I enrolled at Temple, which was downtown Philadelphia. And it took me a long time because then I had 2 little babies.
Sure, yeah.
And nobody went to college with little babies when I went. Believe me, they thought that was very peculiar. And the girls at the Southern Baptist, and I don't mean to malign it at all, but they had to be in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was a lot of climbing in and out of windows and all that kind of thing. I didn't because I was married, had 2 children, so I just settled down and went to graduate school, but I had to take a class or 2 at a time. I couldn't just study. Yeah. So I did that. It took me 12 years. But I got the doctorate all the way to the doctorate.
You got your doctorate?
Yes. Very proud of that because I worked hard with those 2 boys and was so peculiar at William Jewell. I was peculiar. But it didn't bother me, you know.
Yeah.
When you're young.
Yeah, yeah.
New at every life is new and wonderful. So I met a lot of nice people, some of whom I still know. After all those years. But I did take 12 years to get to the doctorate. I got the master's first in English and then kept going and going and going till I got that doctorate, by golly. Anyway, that's where I am. My record is PhD from Temple.
Oh, that's you know, I said earlier that you were a trailblazer for joining the Navy, but you were a trailblazer in many, many things too.
I was. I kind of liked that role.
Yeah.
You know, it came to me naturally. It did. So are we far enough?
Well, and then so you got your PhD, and then you you went on to be a professor
at Penn
or
State, yeah.
At Penn State.
Yeah. I taught English and public speaking and speech communication, all at Philadelphia. William Jewell. I started teaching. The English professor called me up and said, "Would you consider coming teaching here at William Jewell?" I said, "Sure." So I started there teaching and then moved to Temple for the graduate work. So that's my record. And then how did I get here?
Well, how long were you? Were you a professor then?
Until I retired.
So
because I started teaching at William Jewell, and then I decided, I heard the high school English teachers, I was making, say, $2,000. It was a bad time, and they were making more money. But as the principal warned me, now you're not a college teacher, you know, you got to come here at mornings at 8 o'clock and stay all day and leave. And I said, I know, but I need the money because I divorced, you know, and though the boys would go visit their dad, I have 2 boys, and they would visit their dad in the summer. Their dad was, believe it or not, a traveling sales rep. He loved to sell. And so they would travel with him, and his route was Midwest. It was Iowa, Midwest.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how that part of my life went. So I taught at William Jewell, then I taught at high school. High school English, what a difference. Those kids sat there, the clock was always behind the teacher over her desk, you know. And it'd be time for that bell to ring, and they'd go down, and they were geared watching it. And then, boom, out of that classroom fast they could go. And my son, my older son, said, "Now, Mom," because they were in high school then. That high school.
Oh, okay.
That's not. He said, "Mother, would you please not speak to me in the corridor until I find out whether the kids like you or not, because they'll beat me up." He was so certain. So I didn't speak to him. Nobody associated my name. It was Ward. Then a fairly easy name. And so one day I found him sitting at my desk in the office, And I knew that he had found out the kids thought I was okay.
Okay.
And then he let them know that he was mine. So both boys went to the same high school. It's a little awkward, but not much.
Yeah.
I had a colleague friend, but the principal came in. I taught at Penn State when we had that famous, he was, and I don't even remember his name, coach, till he was 84. A football coach, we had a great football team, and the football coach came in to me, I'm teaching English, and boys were resisting, you know. One of them said to me, will you tell me why Shakespeare talked that funny language? And I said, oh honey, it was 1500. The date when he was writing, that's how they talked then. Well, it's hard to understand. So they fought me, but I love teaching.
Wow.
I liked high school, but college is much better, easier. 3 days a week, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. That doesn't mean I didn't have to grade
Sure.
teams and papers and all, but I liked it very much. And so I retired from Temple, and I have the 3 diplomas on the wall over there as you come in.
Wow, wow. And then, so you retired, and talk about your years in retirement then. And how you got to Colorado, and your story after you
How
retired.
did I get to Colorado? I wish I'd thought about this before you
But that's
came.
okay.
But I used to say about it, and I meant it. If you're hot in Colorado, stand in the sun, shade.
Yeah.
If you're cold, stand or sit in the sun. It was perfect. It was so different from the East Coast.
Yeah.
And it's so hospitable. Those mountains are gorgeous. But I like the ocean
I
better.
like the ocean.
Yeah, I would still like to be near the ocean. The mountains don't do anything. They're just wonderful. They stand there so tall and beautiful. But the ocean, I told you, is where I'd like to be, but I'm not going. I think I'm not going to make it there. You know, I'm not going to be going back. My sister's gone, my mother's gone, my
Sure.
father's gone. We were a small family.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
I'm going to be here, and I'm 99, and I don't worry about it a lot. I don't think about it. You know, will I be here tomorrow? Will I wake up? I don't ever occupy myself with that. It doesn't mean I'm swell all the time. I have ups and downs. Colorado, I got here because I had teaching opportunities in high school and Penn State to teach at Penn State. So that's all. And I remember when I had to take a bus, I had no money. I wasn't a saver, so I had a big trunk. We came over a hill and looked down on the boulders, and it was so gorgeous. All those tile roofs, it was so different, so southern, so not southern, western,
Kind of southwestern,
southwestern, and I fell in love with Colorado. And I fell in love at Colorado. And my last marriage was from a man who liked Colorado, was with a man who liked Colorado. And I think that's how I got here. So long ago, I don't remember. If you had interviewed me when I was 60, which is mere slip of a youth, it would have been different. But
Yeah, sure.
I may be the only one this old you ever interviewed,
Yeah,
and that's good.
yeah.
You need experience.
So through the years, did you keep in touch with any of the women that you served with?
I only kept in touch with one, and she died at an early age.
Oh.
And so I don't have, and it's a sorrow that I don't, but I don't. I got busy doing this new thing. I was teaching, going to school, and and that was all behind.
Yeah, sure. Oh,
And
sure,
I
yeah.
was looking ahead
Yeah, yeah.
and just lost touch with them.
Uh-huh.
But I went on that trip, that air trip, that
The honor flight? Uh-huh.
honor flight, and that was wonderful. And we were having breakfast Saturday for veterans
Uh-huh.
at one of the restaurants here, and I go to those. There are very few World War II. They're dying at a lot, a big rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so be it.
Well, I know we'll start to wind down this interview. I know we probably only got the tip of the iceberg of your story. I just know there's so much more. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about, or any stories that have kind of floated to the top that you're remembering now that you'd like to talk to, so that ideally we get as much as we can? Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that? Anything real? Well, I guess I didn't ask about family. You've got 2 sons, grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
Neither one of the girls could have babies.
Oh, okay.
So I'm maybe the only one in this whole building who does, and they love grandkids, because when you have grandchildren, you can go home at the end of a busy day and it's quiet, and nobody needs you for those mundane, everyday tasks. But I don't have, and I don't, I could go out. I always had dogs. I'm crazy about dogs.
Oh, yeah.
I had little dachshunds. My 3rd husband liked dogs, and so we had a dog there after every time I lost one, which is hard. You have to put them to sleep. I'd get another one. I love dogs. I'm not much for cats, but I'm a lot for dogs. What else did we not cover?
Well, as you look back on it, I think you kind of answered this question earlier. As you look back on your time during World War II and your Navy experience, how did that change your life, play a role in your life, affect your life, or was it just simply a chapter in your life? How would you answer that?
I think it changed my life.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I had that experience. And for instance, they were looking for a housekeeper here, and they're hard to find, and they don't pay very well. Don't put that on. But anyway, we got a new one. They have to serve food as waitresses. I've done that for money, to earn extra money when I had little boys. And we'd all count my tips at night, and that was kind of fun. But now the question I'm answering, tell me.
Just how you were talking about how the Navy and the war changed your life. Yeah.
It did, because I wouldn't have had those husbands, those boys, and those experiences in the academy. I might have gone on being a secretary, not that there's anything wrong, that was what there was. But now I've been a teacher of high school English and college English and college speech, and there are times when I agonize because on the TV I was trying to call him and tell him the urge to correct he said something, and I was trying to find a way to call him and say, "Sir, I enjoyed what you said." He was the Memorial Day speaker just recently. He said leverage or something like that. But before I could get to him, he was gone. But I have to watch that, because I do tend to want to have people pronounce words right.
That's your profession.
It's a professional hazard.
Well, I need to start calling you Dr. Ritchie.
Yes, you need.
That's what an honor
it is.
to go there. Yeah, you should be very proud of that. Yeah.
Because I did it the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mom and Papa didn't just write checks. So, it may sound like bragging. I don't.
No. And if it is, you have every right to. That's quite an accomplishment. I think it's an accomplishment for anybody to get their doctorate, but for you to do it the way you did is, yeah.
It's all right. And on reflection, it was good for me. It straightened me out from that hard-headedness I kind of had when I grew up.
So you think you outgrew that hard-headedness, or do you still have a bit of it?
I'm afraid you don't outgrow it. You just learn how not to annoy people with it and to lead in other things, to have some power in the position that came in. There was a lot of power in college teaching.
Sure.
You know, but I think I was going to tell you, the coach came to the English teachers. He was a famous coach at Penn State, and we were winning, and we had a reputation. He said, "Now, I'm visiting all the professors who have my football team, and I want to tell you, don't do them any favors by letting them slide by. If they don't work, you fail them."
Wow.
And I was that kind of a teacher, see. I wasn't the kind of mother who said, when your father gets home, he'll hear about this. I took care of it. And the same with teaching. I didn't say, well, I'll give them a gentleman's C.
Yeah.
I failed them.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
And I, sometimes had a reputation of being hard, but I think that's what they needed to learn. That if I said I was going to fail, I'd fail them. And they posted grades on the door. When you went to take the exam, and I had a set of twins. This is an instant. They were beautiful girls, blonde and gorgeous, but one of them would work for me. I was teaching public speaking, and she preparing to give her to the other one always got by on her looks. So I was going up after I posted the grade. One got a B, the other one got an F. I'm walking into the building where I'm teaching, and the one who got the F was coming out just on the sidewalk by herself. She got near me and she said, "Bitch." And that's what I did. I laughed. I knew what she meant, but that's her remembrance of me. But I did. I was a hard teacher, and I was hard on the boys at home. I didn't put off discipline at all. It's different now.
Yeah, yeah. I bet that's another thing that I'm so impressed with your generation. Everything that you've seen in your lifetime, technology-wise, and just the way things have changed.
Yes.
As you talk about discipline and teaching and stuff, the changes you've seen in your lifetime.
Gosh, there are a lot of gentlemen C's in college teaching because they don't want to. Well, I don't want to hurt them. By God, you better find out that's how life is. You don't produce, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
That's the impression I tried. Did you have anything else?
Well, I can't think of anything that, unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about, because this is for you and the boys. If there's anything else that we left out that you want to talk about.
One boy is in Texas, in Fredericksburg. He now thinks of himself as a Texan. He loves Texas. He was born in Kansas City, and the other one is in Fort Collins.
Oh, good.
So that's how. But thing you learn as a grandparent, they've got their own lives
to
live, and you gotta let them live it.
Yeah.
You don't want to ever go live for them if you can help it.
Yeah.
And this makes it possible.
Yeah.
I get pensions from the Navy. I applied for that myself. 28 pages of application, but the VA gave me a pension, and I get Social Security pension and Pennsylvania state pension for having taught there all my life of teaching. So they pay my dues here. And I'm so glad.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Rustie, I want to thank you for sitting down and telling a fascinating story, but I also want to thank you for your service to our country.
Oh, you're most welcome. We both benefited, didn't we? Don't make my good life, don't make my girl a sailor, the worried mother said. Make her a whack or send her back to Lockheed School instead. She's always been a home girl. She's never been to sea. A man in every port is not what's meant to be.